Hey friends, it is Donna Carlson here with the Crazy as Usual podcast. Today with Lisa Bischoff, founder of Fit to Exist. She is truly a visionary life and wellness coach. They call her the health hacker. She masterfully blends physical fitness with spiritual growth through an innovative approach called Hack Your Healing. I love that as a personal life hack collector. And it's fun for me to meet somebody in person who just obviously exudes the the positive life that you are talking about in the program that you provide. I want to hear more about your own transformation that led you here, um, the milestones for success, how you work with your clients and guide them through that journey of self-discovery and holistic health. So I know everyone on this who listens to this podcast is going to be really curious to hear more about Lisa. Just look at that smile, Lisa. You just exude health and happiness. And when I met you, I walked across the room to say, you need to be on my podcast. You possess that abundant life that people know that they have access to, but they're not sure how.
Mhm.
So, and I wonder if you were born this happy or did you go through a process to get here? Tell us a little bit about you, your background, and then we'll talk about the monkeys a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Donna. The quick version of my background story is I would say I started off as like a child prodigy, wrote my first software program in the fourth grade, started college at the age of 14. I also started hacking phone lines at that time, and nobody knew. Everybody just thought I was winning radio contests and I was really smart and gifted, and they thought it was great. I would go on to get my electrical engineering degree. And when I graduated, I met my friend who became my best friend at the time, and she was a model. And I got into this lifestyle that I had only seen on TV, like getting into the nightclubs, having VIP access, getting to go on photo shoots with her and getting to go on these really awesome vacations.
Wow.
And with that lifestyle, though, I met some pretty bad people. I met con artists, criminals, and mafia figures. And they say you become the sum of your five closest friends. And
Mhm.
I was on my way to becoming a criminal. So by the age of 27 in 2007, I was over $1 million in debt and I couldn't maintain my lifestyle, even with a six-figure income as an engineer. And so I hacked a database, committed identity theft, tried to buy a Porsche in somebody else's name in Arizona on a business trip, got arrested. They found in my backpack a database, hard drives with the database of Colorado Springs. So I ended up serving 30 days in Arizona, in jail in Tent City. And then here in Colorado, I ended up getting probation and community service. And I wasn't allowed to use a smartphone or computer for 2 years, which was kind of
Wow.
crazy because I'm a tech person. And so that
Yeah.
was, that was a punishment. And indeed, I would
Wow.
go, yeah, I would go on from there to not being employable. It was really hard because I was a thief, and I was also a theft of information. I couldn't touch computers, so nobody would hire me. So I would kind of try to figure life out. My parents are very supportive, and I went to live with them, and they were great. So I started playing golf and tennis, and to just have something to do, so I didn't sit at home getting depressed. And that was great, except I started falling into that lifestyle again, that extravagant lifestyle, because all my friends made a lot of money. Some made 40 million a year with what they did. And I wanted to hang out. I wanted to go on the trips and do all the fun stuff. So I started racking up debt in my parents' name, and they didn't know it. And so,
Oh.
yeah. And at the same time I was doing that, started leading a double life. I finally got to start volunteering at a local church, and I loved it. I started pursuing my spiritual life and following the Lord, but I also wanted this other lifestyle. So fast forward to 2019, I racked up $100,000 in debt in my parents' name, and I'm looking for a way out because I got to fix this. I don't want to lose my position at the church. I don't want to. I'm really trying to fix things. And problem solve it. So I had access to $600,000 in diamonds and jewelry from a client that I worked for, and I can rationalize things in my mind very easily. And I was like, well, it's not going to hurt them, and the insurance will. I
You're doing good.
justified it.
You're paying back your parents.
Yeah, I'm going to fix this so I don't disappoint my parents because this would just crush them. And Yeah, so I mastermind a plan. I steal the diamonds and jewelry in 2019. 4 months would go by before I'm actually arrested for it. And at the time of my arrest, it's considered my third strike, and I'm facing 12 years in prison. And
Wow.
I'm hopeless. I immediately stepped down for my role at the church. I was actually made it to being a director in children's ministry where I was at. And so I loved what I was doing. I love ministry, but
Wow. I
yeah,
bet they
I
were shocked.
everybody was shocked. Nobody knew because again, I'm leading a life over here and I'm at the church 6 days a week. And then over here, I'm also leading this other lifestyle and not asking for help. That was something that was hard as I was very ashamed of what I had done and didn't want anybody to know. I was always very into people pleasing and not wanting to be rejected.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the time of my arrest, I'm pretty hopeless. I'm looking for a way out. I actually consider the route of using some of my connections to hire someone to take my life so that my family would get the insurance money and I wouldn't have to face my consequences. I share that with somebody. They say, if anything happens to you, we're going to tell the insurance company and nobody's getting anything. So don't do that. Instead, they refer me to a ministry and I go through inner healing and deliverance. And my life just drastically changed from that point forward.
That's sweet. What was the name of the ministry you went through?
It's a local ministry here in town. And I will preface it by saying I got a lot of healing there and I loved it. I actually went on staff with them at one
Uh-huh.
point. They started mismanaging the donations. And
Oh, no, then we won't talk about
that
that.
was, yeah. And so again, I appreciate all the healing and everything I got there, but it was just, it broke my heart when I left the ministry and I left because of things that were happening there.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so sad. It's so sad that we're human and that these things happen. Coincidentally, the person I interviewed just before our interview wrote The Healing Journey, a 29-week Bible study. So I will add that there is a really good Bible study for Healing Journey if you need one. So this transformation, so many questions I have from um, the transformation that took place when you were in prison. How long did you actually serve out that sentence the second time, or did that get commuted?
So that was okay. So that was a big piece of my transformation. Is so in December of 2019, I go for my sentencing, and I don't know if I'm going to get no time or 12 years in prison. And the judge was very gracious. And he said, I'm going to give you 30 days in jail. I have to give you something. He says, you're not a, and so that started shifting my identity. He said, you're not a bad person. You did
Oh,
bad things, but you're not a bad person. And that
oh,
was the first time that like, oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. Like it started a shift in
yeah,
me.
a judge can change a life. That's amazing.
And he did, yeah. So I ended up, he sentenced me to 30 days in jail or work release. I told my family I would report for the full jail sentence of, because I didn't want my family to drive me back and forth. I'm like, I already caused enough burden and things. Let me just go serve out 30 days. And when I got there and reported for my sentencing, they reduced it to 2 weeks. It was a miracle. Like that was a miracle. Yeah.
Wow. What a great, so that in itself tells you that you've been kind of plucked out, chosen,
Yeah.
and set apart. Really, it, it brings two things to mind. One, God sees us, and two, not everybody gets their sentence forgiven. So we have to look for what he's doing in that. So I'm wondering, in the work that you do to help people with healing, have you worked with people coming out of the prison system?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. I connected with some of the ladies while I was in jail, and then I became friends with them, which you have to be cautious to not fall into. I have to my family and friends are very protective of me now, which is very good to make sure I don't like fall into enjoying something I'm not supposed to join. But yeah, I got to start working and praying with them and ministering to them. So yeah, a lot of the tools I got at the ministry that I went through and then got to use when I was on staff there were just yeah, I use them all over the place. I actually now get to, I volunteer with Colorado Youth for Christ. So twice a week, I get to go to Spring Creek and Zebulon Pike detention centers and work with youth and minister to them. And so I'm very specific with my prayers now. And I say, God, I want to do jail or prison ministry, but I don't actually want to be in there.
Exactly. Yeah. Can I do this from outside? That's amazing. And I love that you started playing tennis and doing some physical activity to stay busy. And my mind went to, well, that's something that you can do where you're not using a computer or phone. Is that why you started Fit to Exist? Because you needed to start a business that didn't require using technology?
Well, so I did form Fit to Exist back in 2010, but I never actually did anything with the business. I was actually certified as a personal trainer in 2009 and had Fit to Exist Fitness. My vision at that time was Fit to Exist would be something bigger in the future, and but I didn't know what that entailed. And so it was just this last summer that so I left the ministry in February of 2023, and as soon as I left the ministry, it was like God. I felt like God released me, and He opened up the opportunity to start writing my book to get published. And he started giving me all these other tools. And part of that was over the summer, I got invited to be a part of an entrepreneurial program, Thrive Network, and or sorry, Survive and Thrive. And
Yeah.
so that I got some funding and everything started to come together for this business. And it was like, okay, I'm going to take the ministry background, my personal training, and then life coaching. And I'm going to combine it all and help people go through transformation like I did. So that's how that kind of came about.
And what's the name of your book? I didn't get this in the.
Oh, so I'm in rewrites right now. It's
Oh,
like
you
the
are.
slowest process ever. I finished the book and I've got to go back through, and they've been waiting since August for me to just finish it. I believe I'm going to call it Hack Your Healing, a guidebook for inner healing and deliverance.
I
Because I
love
talk
that.
about my story and how you do inner healing and how you break off strongholds. Yeah, I think it's going to be really amazing for people.
Oh, it's life changing. I can't wait to read it. It is a great compliment to everyone who loved reading Crazy as Usual. And yeah, the rewrites, that was more painful than childbirth. I think, number one, getting feedback, and number two, having to go back and redo things that you thought was brilliant the first time. But it's always better. It always turns out better. It's going to be fun to see that in print. And I want to, we'll have to rerun your podcast when the book comes out. Um, what is your average client struggling with when they come to you? And can you tell us a few stories of where they were and how they had transformed when they left?
Sure. Gosh. So one of my favorite clients is someone that came in. They heard me on another podcast I did last year, and they said I can totally resonate with your story, except for all the criminal activity, but I can resonate with the rejection and the people pleasing, and I want your transformation. And this client, she came to me and she says, I don't start my day until about 10 o'clock in the morning because my back hurts and I just don't have energy.
Oh,
And so I was like, okay, we're going to take you through a 12-week transformation. Let's go through. And so what that entails is 3 workout sessions a week, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're doing 25 to 30-minute workouts. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're doing life coaching and inner healing combined, like a combination of those. So after 6 weeks, she goes, Lisa, I can get up at like 7 in the morning and my back doesn't hurt. Like I've gotten hours back in my day and my energy is better. And then it's so, and then fast forward. So that was back in like October. She actually stayed on with some more, coaching and stuff. She comes to me, she says, I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in 2026. Do
oh,
you want to
wow.
go with me? And will you train me for it? And I was like, absolutely. So that like, her life is very different. I go, when you started with me, that wasn't even a thought, was climbing a mountain.
Right.
And like her self-image, everything, the other, she's excited. She's sizing down and just feels so much better.
Wow. Well, and there are a few mountains in Colorado you can start with if you're training for healing.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's really exciting. So when was your climb? Did you already do it?
Oh no, it'll be in 2026 is what we're
Okay.
shooting for. Yeah. So we're going to do Pikes Peak hopefully this summer or next summer. And we're going to start, like you said, doing the 14ers and working up towards that.
Yeah, I think we have 7 under our belts.
Nice.
Not there yet, but it is a lot of fun. It's a great accomplishment to get to the top of that mountain. So I'm inspired to hear that you've brought somebody from laying on her back to wanting to do 14ers and one of the biggest mountains in the world. So tell me a little bit more about the marriage between the physical transformation and the healing spiritually.
Sure. So it was interesting. So I got a bunch of spiritual healing and I got to the root of so many things at the ministry that I was at. And I loved it, but I'm like, now what do I do with my life? Right. So I went and hired a life coach. And part of it was I still didn't feel great about my physical appearance and I didn't have my energy. And so one of the things was I need to get back in shape. And feel good. So when I hired a coach, we set some goals, and one of them is I want to compete in figure, and that'll be this year.
Oh,
And yeah, so I got a personal trainer and started setting those goals out. And what I found with all that was spiritually, when you're spiritually fit, that's great. But and when you're physically fit, that's even, that's fantastic too. So when you put it all together and then you got that life plan and you've got goals and you're working towards things, it's to me, it's just a beautiful combination to
right.
really set you, catapult you.
Absolutely. Well, it's become really clear to me, and I remember years ago when I thought I was the only one who knew how important it was that we are holistically well. I got that from um, yeah, the verse in John that talks about loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. I
Mhm,
went, see, even God knows that we need to take care of our health. And I was um, protesting all of the stupid potlucks that our church did because they were not very healthy.
mhm.
And the transformation that happens when you are physically fit and spiritually fit, it lends to being mentally, emotionally well because you're priming that the pump for that health to happen. Um, what do you think is the biggest area of breakthrough when someone is really struggling mentally or emotionally with the crazy, with the monkeys? Um, when do they reach that breakthrough in the process with you?
Well, so that's interesting because I always start with renewing the mind, right? Because you've got your neural pathways in your brain. So if you've got negative thought patterns, that's like the first thing we've got to get addressed is who are you? Who are you? Who did Christ create you to be? So it's identifying your limiting or yeah, your limiting beliefs or ungodly beliefs and getting you to believe what God made you or who he made you to be and what he says about you. From there, as we're going through inner healing, and going into memories and asking Jesus to heal those and identify the lies and show you what the truth is and experience that healing. That's when I really start to see breakthrough. And it's really cool because I've been on the floor training my clients, and all of a sudden we break into an inner healing session because something will pop up, or trigger. And it's like, this is perfect. And it's so nice being in a private setting to be able to
Yeah,
address it right away.
you can't. What does that look like when you realize the opportunity to go into inner healing? What does it look like?
Sure. I mean, so we'll just kind of pause and I'll say, close your eyes and, ask Jesus to give Jesus permission to heal your heart and take you to the memory where if it's something you're struggling, like where did rejection come in?
Yeah.
And then, Jesus, who do I need to forgive in this memory? Because a lot of times when it's a painful memory, there's forgiveness involved. And then Jesus, what's the lie I've believed? Because a lot of times in these memories, it's your perception or your filter you were looking through at the time of the incident.
Yeah. It's everything that I keep hearing from every perspective on that holistic process. We look at life through a lens. And if we grew up with any kind of trauma, that trauma lens just it clouds everything that we see. And it was amazing to me how long it took me to realize kind of the root cause of those thoughts that need to be rewired.
Mhm,
And that sometimes we need to just accept that we're going to be continually rewiring, that we're not done
mhm.
instantly in one healing session. Have you ever noticed that people will get to a healthy point and need to go back and reprocess something?
Oh, sure. And I mean, even me personally, I mean, I have, a counselor and a coach that I see regularly because we live in a world, right, where stuff comes at us all the time and having someone to process things with and go through that, I think is very helpful. But I always encourage my clients, go through the inner healing process at night. I teach them, I put it into 5 steps called the grace process.
Nice.
So the G stands for go to the memory, R release forgiveness, A acknowledge the lie, C confirm the truth, and E experience healing. So if
Yeah.
every night you went to bed and you closed your eyes and asked Jesus to reveal anything that you need to heal from that day, and you go through that and you don't carry it forward, I mean, to me, that's just so powerful to do that.
And it's good to have some kind of a rhythm in life that you can revisit. I love that. I'm going to ask you to write it down and send it to me so I can put it in the show notes.
Yes.
It's a I'm a big fan of having um something that's short and memorable. And grace is a really easy word to remember, and it's something that we always need to remember to give ourselves. Because some of us high performing people don't allow ourselves a whole lot of grace, and we sometimes have a hard time forgiving ourselves for not knowing how to do it better or for doing it wrong. I'm sure there were a lot of monkeys in your process as you thought back to some of the crimes that you committed using that tremendous intelligence um, on the other side of the fence. How did you work through forgiveness for yourself?
So it's interesting because every once in a while I'll catch it because I will have a monkey pop up and it's something that will try to pick at me. Like you're a felon. I mean, because I've got a felony background and you're a criminal. And it's like, that's not who I am. And I have to remind myself that those were events. That's not my identity, and I've been forgiven. I've repented. I've, paid my restitution and I've overcome those things, but sometimes it's identifying like, where is that coming from? And is there a layer? Because I do believe there's layers of forgiveness sometimes. Like you can forgive somebody or yourself, but sometimes you got to do it multiple times because there's different areas, that you need to cover and address to get that full healing.
True. Yeah. Different um, angles to look at the elephant, so to speak. That's great. Well, I'm curious to know in your own life now. I'm sure you're well past the stage where you can use technology again. Um, if you were to go back to that first time when you decided to play with monkey around, so to speak, with accounts, what would you say to yourself if you could go back and have a conversation with that Lisa?
Yeah, it would be don't do it. It's man though, that's hard. That is tricky. And the reason I say that is up until about 2007 when that happened, I was not a nice person. I would say sometimes I would refer to that part of my life like I was a monster. Like if people asked me for help or anything, I was so for myself and I put myself on a pedestal because I was always so praised that I wouldn't help people. So had that
It's
pivot
hard
not
to
happened,
imagine.
yeah, so had that not happened, I don't know that I would be where I am today and that God would have been able to get a hold of me like that because he tried. He tried all the years leading up to that different things. And it wasn't until that. And obviously there was still a struggle because of the 2019 and leading the double life. But yeah, that's I don't know what I would tell myself. I don't know that I would have listened.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I bet your then self would not have listened.
Yeah.
And I always wonder what it takes for someone to finally listen. And it usually is something that's just a chasm, irreparable kind of chasm.
Mhm.
That's amazing. So let's say someone who's listening to this podcast is driving to work is struggling right now. Maybe it's with her physical fitness, maybe it's with confidence, um, maybe it's feeling like she's not seen or heard or understood very well. What would be your advice to that woman?
Oh, well, I would say I would invite him to like jump on a call with me for an hour and I love praying with people. I love trying to, even doing one inner healing session with somebody and just kind of seeing where is that resonating from? And let's ask Jesus to heal it and give you a new perspective, a new start on that and ask him to give you that guidance and wisdom in that place. But it's getting help. I mean, it's finding someone that you can trust that can help you go through that and not doing it alone. That was one of my biggest struggles is I did everything alone because I was ashamed and prideful and didn't want anybody to know my stuff. And I just didn't want it out there.
Wow. Well, I can see how that developed. I mean, you went to college at 14. That was really early to be
Mhm.
entering that world. Do you think that early exposure to adult life was part of the reason that you kind of tilted?
It's possible. There's some other speculation of what, like that triggered a lot of the crime stuff, and it goes back to when I was 4 years old. I just learned this in the last year.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like because I was always high performing. I was in a lot of specialty programs and stuff, and I would have told you I went my whole life. My parents are still married. They're amazing people. Everybody's always been so great in my life, but it looks like there was something very traumatic that happened to me in daycare at the age of 4
Oh,
because
that
memories
your
kept popping
parents,
up.
your parents didn't know about?
No.
Wow. Interesting. I've always wondered, because I was an orphan a few times in life. I'm not going into my story, but the orphaned by alcohol, then mom left, then dad died, and then mom killed herself. And so it was just this sequence of activities that led me to believe that people with parents have a great life,
Mm,
and that the people who suffer the most in life are the ones who don't have any guidance. But um, you had great parents, and it's really important for us to remember that trauma can take a number of different faces,
mm,
and it can really plague and influence our thought life without us even knowing it. It's just amazing. So I'm glad that you tell that as part of your story, because I think when we heal early childhood trauma, that's when we can actually start to think with a clear head
mm.
and function in the way that God designed us to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So, okay, who is your ideal client? And how, I'm not assuming that you only help women, but this podcast pretty much targets women. But tell me, um, who it is that you have the best results with, and how she can find you.
Okay, yeah. Ideally, my ideal client is between 25 and 55. And it's someone that is possibly dealt with rejection throughout their life, and they are ready to just tackle it and say, okay, I want more out of my life. I want to feel good physically, spiritually. I want to be, I want to be like, for me, I want to be 100% sold out to Jesus. I want my spiritual life to just be on fire, physically fit, and then have a plan for my destiny and map it out. And I do work with men. One of my quick testimonials was I worked with a lady. She came in, and then her husband came in and said, "Whatever you did for my wife," he goes, "I didn't believe it." He had a psychology background. He goes, "Whatever you guys did to my wife, I want you to do it for me because she's a different person now, and I would love." He goes, "I want to experience that healing that she got." And I was like, "Well, yeah, we could do it for you." I mean, it's
Do it.
Jesus. I'm just a facilitator, right? It's
Yeah.
it's Holy Spirit and Jesus coming in and just doing the work in the healing.
Yeah, I love that, Lisa. I love your spirit. It's hard for me to imagine you as a person who doesn't help people. And that just shows off the amazing transformation and power of Jesus. So I'm just so grateful to have you on this podcast. And I can't wait to hear some more healing stories. Heck, who knows? Maybe I'll call you up one day too. Um, it's great to see this work in the world.
Mm.
And for those of you listening, we will have how to contact Lisa in the show notes. So don't worry, you're not going to miss a beat. And I encourage you to join us here next time on the Crazy as Usual podcast.